Okay, friends.
Go ahead,
So
Heidi.
tonight we are talking about the ever important LinkedIn profile. And basically what we're going to do is we are just going to go through from top to bottom your LinkedIn profile, right? Well, not yours, because I'm not going to put anybody on blast, but you know what I'm saying, right? So a little bit about me. I didn't really do a good job of introducing myself last week, but in this slide presentation, there's a slide to introduce myself. So I'm going to take a few minutes and do that if you guys don't mind. Before I got into ID, I spent about 5 years as a college English professor. And then back in 2017, due to kind of a lack of consistent hours and schedule and salary and all that good stuff, I decided to make the switch to instructional design. And so I've been in instructional design for about 3.5 years now. And 2.5 months ago, I landed my first management role as leader of a learning team. So that's super exciting in my career journey. For those of you who don't know, I host an L&D podcast called the Block Podcast, and I interview really awesome people in the field of L&D just about like what they're working on and the cool stuff that they get to do. And fun fact, my very first ever instructional design job when I broke into the field was with NASA. And through that job, I actually got the opportunity to visit all of the 10 major NASA centers across the United States to conduct focus groups. So it's just a little bit about me. But now I want to hear about some of your preconceptions about LinkedIn. So Erin is going to share a Jamboard link in the chat. I believe that there's a yellow side for what you've heard and a blue side for what you'd like to learn more about. And if you click that little square fourth down from the top on the little left-hand menu of options, you can add a sticky note to the Jamboard.
Heidi, it says that we need access.
No. Okay, give me 1 second.
I got you. So guys, I'm just going to keep my eye on the chat box, everyone. So if you want to send in questions or type in thoughts or questions, that kind of thing, I'll keep track of those and make sure that when Heidi gets a moment to answer questions, I'll make sure she answers all of your questions. So you can just throw your thoughts in the chat box.
Now you guys can you should be able to edit. Sorry about that. Google just really wants you to keep stuff on lockdown, which is good.
All right,
it's a positive thing.
We're in. There's a bunch of us in there.
Okay. Yes, I see anonymous coyote, anonymous chameleon.
So what are some LinkedIn best practices that you've heard about? I have heard that you should post a lot on LinkedIn. Okay. And there's my yellow sticky note. Oh, there's someone. Oh, that's you, Heidi. That's us. Does everyone know how to use the Jamboard? How to make those sticky notes?
If you can you see my cursor when I'm sharing my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Here's the sticky note button. Click this to add a sticky note. I love it.
There's a lot of going on there now.
Look at all this. It's lovely. Oh, I like it. Put that right there. Okay. Okay,
I contributed some things in there. Because
Sherry, if you hit refresh, you should be able to edit, because I accidentally hit view first and then I hit edit. So if you refresh the page, you should hopefully be able to edit. Oh my goodness. Wow, look at this. Oh my gosh, this is great. This is great. Who is anonymous I don't know. Whoa. Oh, Beth, right here, fourth from the top on this menu, there's a sticky note button. If you click that, you'll be able to share a sticky note. Okay, I'm going to start looking at some of these. So post a lot on LinkedIn. Your headline helps you be discovered by recruiters. You should put the job you want in your headline. Your summary should be about the job that you're going for. It's absolutely necessary to successfully move into ID. Send all connection requests with a personalized message. I'm gonna let you guys read. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna move some of these around here so you could see all of it. What's up with the weirdos? Putting that right there. Okay, I'm gonna spread this all out so you guys can take a look real quick. Look at, oh my gosh, there's a lot of preconceptions about LinkedIn. Sorry, I'm moving stuff. Sorry, guys, sorry. Oh, wow, this is a lot. How to connect with the people at your company you want to work without sounding like a creeper. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I think that, let me just browse these real quick and make sure. I think we're going to cover most of this tonight, you guys. I'm feeling really good about
it. Yay.
Okay, so I'm going to present again. But let's talk about the first thing that you see when you go onto LinkedIn, right? The first thing you notice, right? It's your profile picture. So I have two profile pictures here. One is a poor example and one is a good example. Here are just some best practices, right? Your picture should actually look like you. You shouldn't sign on to a Zoom interview and look way different than your photo, right? That's usually kind of, I mean, everybody uses filters. So if you look a little, like, look at my picture, it looks a little better than I look. So, you know, but you can still recognize me, right? Recognizable is the key. Use a high resolution photo. If your photo's a little blurry and you're like, my photo's a little blurry, but I think I'll post it anyway, don't post it. Just, you know, and most smartphones these days will take a nice high res photo for you so that you really don't have to worry about like the grainy ones that you're like, but this is a really good picture of me. Make sure there's nothing distracting in the background. As cute as my dog is, she is distracting and doesn't belong in my LinkedIn profile. Instagram, yes. Facebook, yes. LinkedIn, not so much. She's not applying for any jobs. I wish she would because she's a freeloader. Anyway, let your personality shine through. And when I say wear industry appropriate attire, what I mean is this. So if you're looking for a company whose culture is a little bit more lax, then like I do, I just have like a nice blouse on. I'm not wearing like a blazer. You know, I see a lot of finance guys on LinkedIn wearing the suit and tie, but like, unless you're looking for that formal of a culture, like dress the part, right? So don't be afraid to like not wear something super fancy, right? You know, it really just depends on the kind of company that you're looking for. And don't forget that LinkedIn will make a circle around your face. So if you had like, imagine what it would look like if you cut off all the corners of your photo. Can you still see all of you that you want to? You know, it's not going to make you bald. It's not going to make you, you know, you got all of it in there. It gets a little bit of my curls are cut off, but that's okay. That always happens. So this profile picture is actually brand new. And I will say that, Erin, can you share that link to the background thing?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to drop that in the comments.
Perfect. So Erin shared this link that However you take a picture, it'll like superimpose a background on the photo. If you have curly hair like me, it doesn't always work awesome. You have to do some finagling with the photo that you use because, you know, it tries to cut out half of our curly hair. But I actually took this picture up against my front door because my front door is just plain white. My neighbors probably saw me, which is great fun too. But because I took like 15 photos to the point where like even my 4-year-old son came out. He's like, "Mom, why are you out here for so long?" I'm like, "Be quiet, I'm taking a picture." Go back inside. Go back inside, right? But then I added this cool brick texture, this cool brick background, so it was less, because it was just like straight white. I was like, this is too plain. But if you choose one of those backgrounds, I will say, like, make sure it looks natural. Like if you take your photo in the evening, don't use like one that looks like it's sunlight in the daytime, right? Just make sure it doesn't look like super photoshopped, right? So then your background photo or your cover photo is this picture that's the big rectangle that goes behind your profile photo. And when you're picking this, you want to pick something that's a little bit unique. You definitely don't want to use the standard. I think it's like 2 little shapes or something like that. But you definitely want to choose something. You want to choose something unique. Don't use something that's too distracting or too like contrasting colors. You can certainly insert some of your personality, insert some of like your, you know, details about yourself, like, but in a subtle way. So like, for instance, if you're from Seattle and you love Seattle, you could always put a Seattle skyline photo, right? Like that's not too much. Just add a little bit of like, you know, personality. For mine, I use it to advertise my podcast because that's what I do. And so it's even like branded with my podcast colors, and I made it in Canva, of course, because they actually have a like templates for LinkedIn banners on Canva. So that's a cool thing to use as well. Another website that I always talk about is unsplash.com because they have really cool photos. So if you're looking for something that's more photo based, that's a really great one too. Again, some people are like, you need to keep it professional, but I think it's always nice to have something that like that is professional, but also like gives a little bit of insight into like who you are as a person, right? Okay, so the headline, right? This is the part that's right under your face and your name. So it is one of the most visible parts of your profile. And so you want to make sure that it has the best information possible. LinkedIn defaults to put your current job title and your company, but you can change this. And I would encourage you to change it because it can do wonders. It can do really great things. And it can, you know, if you use adjectives to describe what you're good at, the job that you're going for, like somebody mentioned earlier, you know, what would something like that look like, right? So here are some really awesome examples of headlines that I found and blurred out the last names. Mike is a learning consultant making work better by tapping the best from the intersection of learning, design, and technology. I would hire Mike. Would you? Jason's is not L&D, but still a really good headline and shows all the different hats that he wears, right? Serial tech entrepreneur, advisor, B2B, SA, software as a service co-founder, like you have to know all the acronyms if you want to hang with Jason. And then Myra's is like a lot more fun, right? It still explains her talents. It still talks about the different hats she wears, but she's put like her personality into it, right? Chief cloudification officer, maker of stuff, writer of things, explainer of doohickeys, right? So, you know, that's a great way to stand out from the rest of the crowd. Erin, do you want to hit me with some questions before I show you guys some really bad examples of headlines?
Yes. How do you feel about listing several different job titles and having that line like that divider separating them, and then just having like just job titles like instructional designer, virtual instructor led trainer, e-learning specialist, curriculum and instruction, and just all divvied up by that divider.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. Mhm. I might add in like a couple adjectives, right? Like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good one. Engaging instructional designer, right? Something
Right.
like that to
Right.
just add
Creative.
a little bit more personality in there, right?
Mhm.
But yeah, I would totally, if you're looking for different titles, yeah, put them all in there.
That's good advice. And I shared some links to where to listen to your blog podcast. So
Oh,
a couple of
thank
people were
you.
asking about that earlier. Yeah. So I have put a couple of those in there. Um, and then I think that that's about all of the questions that we've had
Awesome.
so far. Yeah. So we're
Well,
on a
then
roll.
I'm going to show you some really bad headlines. And if these are yours, I apologize in advance, but I'm pretty sure they're not. Because these were very clearly people that I was not connected, right? Looking for great opportunities. Why is that bad? Well, we don't know what field those opportunities are in. Do you want to be in finance? Do you want to go into consulting? Do you want to go into L&D? Even I would even suggest, and this is something I see often with teachers. They're like, educator looking for my next opportunity or
Mhm.
the next step in my journey in instructional design. The aspiring piece, right? Much like Kelly just said. The only thing with that is that as a hiring manager, I look at that and I say, are you really fully committed to the career change? If you're kind of like looking for a new adventure, right? Like instructional design, changing your career is not like an adventure. And I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to be optimistic about it. But from a hiring manager perspective, like the aspiring or, I would be afraid that you're not pot committed to your new career. And I would be a little less likely to hire you than somebody who's like, I'm an instructional designer, bam, right? And it also shows confidence, right? It shows that like, I'm not just an inspiring instructional designer, I already am. Like that's already what I've been doing in my teaching career, right? The second one is just purely an example of that job title and company thing. That's why it's not a great example. And the absolute worst thing that you can possibly do to a field that you can customize is put unemployed at unemployed. And I've seen this is search for unemployed at unemployed on LinkedIn and see how many people pop up because it is a ton. So don't put yourself out there like that. If you have aspirations, if you are a human being with a personality, like put something, right? Anything is better than unemployed at unemployed, right?
Heidi, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
And that is, we're wondering about the first 4 words in the headline being the most important, because the headlines can sometimes get cut off depending on, you know, what device you're like looking at them on, or something like that. And then some of us have heard that all of the words in the headline are about Laura. Actually, would you mind, Laura, coming off mute and explaining that your feedback on that one?
On the SEO stuff?
Yeah. Yeah.
I took a class last fall where they talked about using the headline and the your job title. That was like super SEO stuff. And when you're putting the pipes in between, don't make sure you leave a space, because if it's a pipe up against a letter, that no longer will be found. And so, but as I understood it, every word in your headline is SEO valuable. So for whatever you want people to find you, to search for and find you, that needs to be in there. And then your about line, I think the top 2 lines need to be, I don't know if those are SEO or just people scanning. But those first 2 lines need to be just like spot on and grab people or you're losing out.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. Thank you, Laura. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's good.
I've not heard the first 4 words thing, so that's great. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm. And then, I don't know if you're going to get to this or not. Oh, sorry, Laura, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think it's just the first 4 words. I think it's all of it.
Oh, okay.
So they were looking
the
for
whole
confirmation on the 4 words, and I didn't know if you knew anything about that. So.
I've not heard the first 4 words things, but as somebody who has actually been searching for candidates in LinkedIn lately, I can tell you that your headline and your titles of your job positions do matter 150%. Yeah, for sure. So yeah. Anything else, Erin?
I don't know if you're going to get to this or not, but there's just questions about that green open to work.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
I don't think that I have anything on that here. I feel like the feedback I've heard is 50-50, right? You know, some people say that it looks desperate. I don't really, again, as someone who's been searching for candidates, I don't know who's looking for a new job or not if I'm just searching through LinkedIn as a hiring manager, because I don't have premium. So that's part of it. Like if you have premium, it'll tell you like this person's open to these kinds of roles, right? But like if I'm a hiring manager who doesn't have premium, like if I'm just searching, and especially if you started a new job recently, I'm like, this person's probably not looking for a job, right? But like I have nothing to base that opinion on. It's really up to you. The other thing is if you're still teaching, you might not want to do that, right? Just for obvious personnel reasons. So yeah, I don't know. I'm on the fence with everybody else, I feel like. So I feel like it could go either way.
And there are a lot of articles and stuff that I see popping up all the time about that. And it is about a 50-50, you know,
yeah,
kind
for
of
sure. Yeah.
pro con on that.
If someone's not going to hire you because of a little frame on your profile picture, you probably don't want to work for that person anyway.
Yeah.
Just saying. If that's what they decide to like hone in on.
And Heidi, so based on just hearing you talk about having premium and not having premium LinkedIn, would you recommend it?
Me personally, the only benefit really for me as a job seeker was LinkedIn Learning, but you can get access to LinkedIn Learning, which might also be called Lynda, Lynda, through your public library as well. So check with your library first and see if you're in like a master's program or some other kind of, if you're enrolled in school, right? Like I get access to LinkedIn Learning for free through my PhD program, through my school. And yeah, not every library is going to provide it. So in that case, it might be worth it for the LinkedIn Learning. And yeah, that would be my thing. Laura.
Question about the premium versus not premium. In the job seeking part, I've been really curious because I have premium, so I can see how I compare with other applicants. Is that part of it in the non-premium as well?
No, you can't see that. You're just kind of blind applying.
Okay. I had been waiting for somebody to ask. So, okay. Thanks.
Sure. Good questions. These are a lot of good questions. I love it.
I just answered two really quick in the chat, Heidi. Cool. Just that you can, even if you're using at the library or your university or wherever you're using LinkedIn Learning, you can still save the certificates as PDFs and attach them in an email to yourself. And there's also the option right after you finish LinkedIn Learning to post them on your LinkedIn account. So there's no worries about that, about where you take them. And then the other one is, will it show up on the profile the same way? Yes. So if you can get LinkedIn Learning for free, I mean, more power to you. That's awesome.
Yes. Yay.
Real.
And also LinkedIn Premium has a free trial period too. I forgot to mention that part. So if you've never taken advantage, 30 days, like plan it carefully so that you can take as many LinkedIn learning courses as possible in that 30 days because it is unlimited, but you know, just be aware. All right, now I want to hear from you guys. What is your new headline going to be? If you want to share, if you feel comfortable.
Like that. That's a great follow-up question. I can't
That
wait
was,
to see this.
I can't even take credit for it. That was Sarah's question. Sarah threw that in here.
Yeah. So if you guys want to send that to Heidi's poll Ev, I can drop that in the chat box, or I mean, you can drop it in the chat box too. That's fine. But to have it show up on the screen, you'll just go to pollev.com and then Heidi.
Ooh, I like it. Rachel, I like it. I would just add a couple adjectives in there somewhere.
How would you add adjectives, Heidi? Just curious.
I would put one before instructional designer and one before e-learning specialist. Now, what those adjectives are, that's up to you. That's, you know, where do you think your strengths are, right? Like, what are your top 3 that you would share in an interview, right? Something like that. Problem solving, engaging. There's also learner centered up here. You can borrow, plagiarize from someone else, you know, that kind of thing. I love it. I love all of these.
I like that, Annalie. Creative problem solver. That's nice.
Yes, creative problem solver. Is it okay to put expert? That's up to you. Is someone might call you on that during an interview. These are great. I like trained workshop facilitator. That's great. Engaging. I love it. Creative. I love it. Nice. Sherry, is it going to let you put all that? Oh, nice. I didn't know there was a limit. I always try to keep it short. So is there a limit? How long can it be?
I think it's 3 lines stacked.
3 lines? Okay.
I think that I would add a caution to anything that's like e-learning, unless you were very familiar with the tools or absolutely knew that you wanted to do that, because I'm worried about like people getting into this trap of like having a recruiter reach out to them and like them having a portfolio that's not to the standard of what you would be expected to make as an e-learning like designer.
I agree.
That's a really good point.
That's actually my job title though, so I put that on there. But yes, if you don't know the stuff, I gotta be able to back it up, and your portfolio's got to be able to back it up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely just be mindful that like whatever you put, like Annalie's gamification expert, right? If you put expert, be prepared to talk about that in an interview, right? Like adventurous, VILT. What do you mean by adventurous, right? How are you adventurous, right? Just be prepared to answer questions about your headline, right? Awesome. I'm excited to see all your headlines. Woo-hoo. Okay, so fun and technical fact that often gets overlooked is that you can customize your LinkedIn URL. And if you haven't done so yet, I would highly encourage you to do it because it just looks so much cleaner anywhere you need to paste it, right? You know, put your name, put your, you know, it doesn't have to be your name. If you have yourself branded, right, you can use that, you know, whatever branding. But typically first and last name is pretty common unless your name's really common, and then you might not be able to do that. And Laura says SEO there too, for sure. And it's pretty simple. You just go to where you edit your profile, and then there's a little pencil next to edit your custom URL, and you're able to do that. So, and if you get stuck, you can always just Google it, and there will be plenty of instructions on how to update that there. Okay, so the next thing we see going down the page is your summary, right? And basically, I always tell people that this is basically like your elevator pitch, right? But maybe a little bit briefer. So think about that. Think about the different keywords that you typically incorporate into your cover letter. Laura, do you think SEO matters on this one? On your summary? Heck yeah, it does. It matters everywhere, right? Like all the keywords throughout your entire LinkedIn profile help hiring managers search for you. So just remember that. Any of the keywords that you're using in your resume, in your cover letter, make sure that those are throughout your summary as well. Tell a story, right? Don't just kind of leave it bullet points. Tell a story about you. If you have some job descriptions, if you have like dream jobs, right? What are some of like the keywords or the roles and responsibilities of those job descriptions? Also, give some examples, high-level achievements, right? What have you achieved in your career that you're super proud of? So basically, who are you? What have you done? And what do you bring to the table, right? Don't worry, I have some examples. I'm not going to read this out loud to you. I'm going to give you a moment to read this to yourself.
And you'll get a copy of everything that Heidi's showing you, this slide deck. It'll go to the email address that you use to register for the webinar.
Yeah, so don't worry about copying it down.
Yeah.
Whose is this? I'm trying to remember whose this is.
It's Sarah's.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it might be,
Sarah's.
but then I wasn't sure.
No. Inspired to design and designing to inspire. That's
how you
her,
knew.
like, yeah.
It was a giveaway. I love it. Yeah.
That's what she said, and that's her like little catchphrase.
Yes.
She's got a really good one.
All right.
Good job, Debbie.
I'm going to move ahead.
Debbie's getting her LinkedIn profile up and going, starting with that.
Nice.
URL.
Debbie's got Zoom in one window and LinkedIn in the other. She's just working. It's awesome.
She's ready. Hey, my LinkedIn profile needs a lot of work. This is good stuff, Heidi. It's really good stuff.
Thank you. Thank you. Whose is this?
Let me see.
Now I'm trying to remember who I stole examples from. But this is another really good one. Look at all these tools that this person lists. They talk about their volunteer work. Is it?
Yeah, it might be Leslie.
It might be Leslie.
You're right, Moena. It might be Leslie because it has her little ESL, her thing. Like, in another life, I was an ESL teacher. It's got that down at the bottom. Not the in another life part.
I love it. Yeah. Now I'm trying to see if it really is. I feel like, oh yeah, it's totally, you guys are good at this guessing game. Get out of here. It is Leslie.
That was Moena. How did you know that, Moena? You are with it.
That was awesome.
I recognize some phrases.
That's great. I love it.
We have a That's Awesome ID fangirl.
Yes. I'm one too. It's fine. Okay. So below your summary is your featured section. So this is where you can really show off some of your best work. That's my recommendation for how to use this section. If you want, you can upload portfolio pieces to this. You can provide a link to your portfolio here. If you have a blog where you write about instructional design, or LinkedIn articles like Tyler does, you can link to some of those here. But 100%, if you have a portfolio website, put it in your featured for sure, because that's the easiest way for hiring manager to find it. And anything that any articles that you've published on LinkedIn, if there's a link or media, go ahead and put that there. Projects, associations whose websites showcase your work. So if your work exists somewhere else, that's what I use it for a lot. Like if I'm on somebody else's podcast or I do like an interview thing, I'll post that in my featured. My LinkedIn is like all about my podcast, so I'm really not a good I shamelessly plug all over my LinkedIn. So, do we have any questions about summary or featured sections?
Yes. What do you suggest to do with your resume? Like, what's the difference between having your resume and then having like your job summary? Can you help us figure out what goes where and why?
Yeah. So your resume, I would honestly not put it on your LinkedIn profile. Here's why. I also wouldn't put it on your portfolio website. Here's why. Because then it's one more, then you have to update those places. You have to remember where your resume lives, all the different places where your resume lives, and update it anytime you update your resume, right? And if you're like Rachel, who you're going for a few different job titles that have like a little bit different specialities, right? You probably have a few different resumes, right? You don't want a hiring manager to find the wrong one, quote unquote, right? So the resume thing, I think, is more of like the personal, send that to the hiring manager, send it on the application. That way you're not killing yourself updating it all the time. But I will say that where you get to, and we'll talk about this, where you get to your work experience, copy and paste the bullet points that go with each job title into that section of your work experience. Think of your summary as more of like your executive summary on your resume, but build it out a little bit more than that because you have a little bit more space. So it doesn't need to only be one paragraph. Add a tiny bit more to it than that. But that's a good kind of way to frame it and think about it.
I think that's it for now, Heidi.
Cool. Very cool. We're just zooming through all these. Okay, so I already kind of mentioned this, but this is going to be, have a good night, Laura. This is going to be a super short section. For your experience and education part, really the biggest, best thing you can do is just fill it out, right? Like enter the information in there. For every position, put 2 or 3 bullet points to describe the role that you've held. But, keep in mind, much like with your resume, you're trying to tailor your language and those responsibilities more towards instructional design, right? Mine is literally just copied and pasted from my resume, right? And in that sense, I don't update those bullet points every time I update my resume because now they're like separate enough, right? It's kind of living in its own space. That even if I update my resume, I just leave those bullet points there. They're good. They describe what I do. And it just gives more as Laura would say, SEO keywords for people to be able to find you, right? Definitely though, don't feel like you have to include old experience. I do not have on my resume the years that I worked at Old Navy. It doesn't matter. It only matters because I still suffer from a little bit of retail PTSD. And if you've ever worked retail, you probably feel the same way. Or if you still work retail, you probably feel the same way. Man, dollar flip-flop day, I'll never get over it. But I don't need to put that on my LinkedIn, right? And even some of like, because I adjuncted at so many different schools, if I was at a school for like one semester, I don't even put that on there anymore. You know, it's, you know, anything that's really old or just not super relevant to the career that you're trying to get now, you can omit, because it's not like you're trying to mislead someone, right? Like you're really just trying to highlight your work experience, much like you would do on your resume, right?
Mm-hmm. Heidi, should the wording, like the verbiage, be different on LinkedIn than on your resume? I know you said copy paste, but should one be more formal than the other and one be less so?
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that it's not that way. I just haven't heard that. So
Okay.
I'm not sure what the best answer is. But I would say, like, as long as you're looking in both places, resume and LinkedIn, to kind of highlight those keywords, I think you'll be in good shape.
Mm-hmm.
We're like getting to the bottom of the LinkedIn profile here. Look at this. Skills. So on LinkedIn, you can use, or you can choose your top skills. And when you go to add skills, it'll already suggest some based on your profile, right? So if you've already filled out your summary and your work experience, it's gonna suggest some skills for you. You can click on these, but you wanna choose like a top 5, right? And so think about those dream jobs, think about those job descriptions for those dream jobs that you've been applying to, and choose those 5 skills wisely and based on those dream job descriptions. But also remember what we talked about with headlines, that you don't want to choose something that you're not going to be able to speak to, right? If you're saying I am skilled in this, then, you know, obviously you have to be skilled in that when you start getting the questions. Again, these sections are going to be much shorter because these are like these are the more ancillary parts of LinkedIn.
Hey, Heidi, can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
How would one go about putting where they have the company that they've worked at for several years, and then underneath that, there's like the tiered system of the roles that they've had within the company? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pull up mine and see what I did. It's a good question. I'm not sure.
It wasn't my question. It was Ashley's question.
Good question, Ashley.
Good question, Ashley.
Let's see here. Oh my gosh. Just showing everybody all my business. Sorry.
Yes, that one with the timeline.
How did I do it?
Yeah. Because if you've taught in the same school district for several years, but you've branched out in your role outside of classroom teacher, you've had other jobs, like simultaneously as being a teacher. But
I think because I chose a company that is like in the system, that Karen, you're right. I think it automatically put those things together.
Okay.
So, and I don't know if they have to be next to each other. It is possible that they have to be right next to each other for it to automatically format it that way. But yeah, I would just, you know, do the best you can. And if it looks wonky, it's not going to be too distracting, right? But yeah, I mean, and I think you can reorder it. So my recommendation is always to order it like most recent, or I think it automatically does right? Does it automatically order it now? It's been a long time since I put work experience in there, you guys, for real.
It does it.
Okay,
Karen
does
said
my
it does it by date. And Heidi is saying that Heidi's done a lot on LinkedIn as well. So she has some insight into that.
Awesome. If your LinkedIn experience and your resume experience don't match, it's not. Okay, I'm sorry. If one is longer than the other, I don't think that's a big deal. If they don't match, that's a separate problem. If one says you were doing this those 2 years and another says you were doing something else, that's obviously a problem. But if one is longer and shows more of your work history than the other, I don't think that that's necessarily a big deal. So endorsements and recommendations, I feel like this is a part of LinkedIn that has honestly not really taken off as much as it was meant to originally. But you can still endorse other people's skills and have your skills endorsed by other people. So basically what that does is you're saying, yes, this person is an expert in X skill. You can ask people in the TPLD group to endorse your skills. You can ask new connections to do that. Tyler makes a good point that these are at the bottom of the page for a reason. You're right. But then you also have recommendations, and you can have past supervisors, coworkers, your mom, if you really want. My mom's not on LinkedIn because she's a teacher. Go figure, right? But you know, I would totally have my mom write me a recommendation now that I'm thinking about it. I should do that. Or my husband, that would be hilarious. But you can always ask people to write recommendations for you on LinkedIn, much like you would ask for a reference letter, right? So it really depends on how much you want to fill this out and how much you utilize this. I sort of look at it when I look at other people's LinkedIn profiles, but you know, like Tyler said, it's
It takes a lot of scrolling. Like if I'm really interested in someone, like I'll look at the whole thing.
Tyler said that they're going to ask you to dinner, that they're going to be ready to ask you for dinner, to dinner, not for dinner, ask you for dinner, right? If they get through that much of your LinkedIn profile. Probably true. Yeah. So if someone's like, hi, how are you? I read your recommendations. Probably just don't respond to that person. Just kidding. Kidding, not kidding. I don't know. So again, the accomplishments and the interest parts are all the way at the bottom. You can put organization, projects here, but just, you know, avoid anything that's like too finite, but there's all sorts of different things. Just explore it and take a look. I know we only have 2 minutes left, so I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. You can also follow people, right? So you can follow kind of like thought leaders and things like that. Connect with other people. This is like my biggest thing. Don't treat it like Facebook. Don't treat it like Instagram. Connect with strangers. You know, but make sure you add a little note to explain why you connected. Simple. You can have like, you know, you can just have a, hi, I'm so-and-so, and I'm looking to connect with other people in the field of instructional design, right? That simple. But add strangers, grow your network. It is not the place to be choosy unless somebody is like, hi, how are you? And doesn't say anything else, of course. And use it like social media, right? So join groups to meet new people, sign up for events. Events are relatively new, but they're a big thing in LinkedIn. Start following people, start following the companies you want to work for. You can follow hashtags. Did you know you can follow hashtags on LinkedIn? Yeah. So just really make sure that you're putting yourself out there as much as possible.
You can also search for stuff via hashtag. So like, you know how
Who
we
is
do
that?
like,
Oh, it's Sarah. I'm just kidding.
it's me.
Good.
I'm back. Hello.
Hello.
So for example, like Waywo Wednesday, you know how we do like, hey,
I love it.
TPLD fam. And if you're like in the group and you put in hashtag Waywo, then it'll pull up all the posts that have that hashtag in it. So hashtag features are more than just those pretty blue words that you see on posts. They actually function to serve as a way to search for stuff. You can also search for our job leads by doing hashtag TPLD job lead.
Yes.
And I've
That's
gone in
new.
and done Tech Tuesday. I've gone back in to find stuff that we've posted
For sure.
Tuesday.
Yeah. So that's how to find resources, but then how do you put stuff out there? So very quickly, you can share other people's relevant posts, right? That's always a good one. You can write your own articles. If you want more info on that, Tyler writes his own articles. He's pretty good at it. So you could always ask
He has
Tyler
his
what he
website
does.
too.
Yeah. He does a lot of good LinkedIn stuff there. You can share links, external links. If you are browsing the internet and you find something that has to do with ID, like, yeah, share it. Photos, media. Sometimes one of my most popular posts was something that I posted the day after Christmas because I was trying to consistently post. And all I did was post a picture of a Lego Superman. And I was like, what did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a little kid or something of that nature? And it was like one of the most popular, it was just a question, just a random question. A lot of times if I put in, like, I'll have a random question pop into my head and I'll put it on LinkedIn and it'll get like all this play. And I'm like, oh, okay, that worked. You can create polls. People do love polls. I think there's some limitations with polls, like you can only have a certain number of responses and things like that, but polls are definitely another good way to get people involved in your profile and comment on other people's posts and react to them. I always tell people the 2 and 2 rule. If you're not used to this, try to post one of your own original things every week and share someone else's post once a week. So that's the first 2. The other 2 is to comment on 2 people's posts. So if you just do the 2 and 2 once a week, you'll start kind of getting into that groove, you'll find. So, okay. Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Is
sure.
there an easy way to get feedback on some of the things that I've made to make it better? Like some of the courses I made, maybe it's ugly and it looks good to me, but maybe other people it's not nice.
So you can, a lot of people share them in the TPLD group on LinkedIn. A lot of people will just post a link to what they're working on in the group. And then that allows everybody in the group to kind of respond when they can. Or you can set up office hours through the website and meet with myself or Sarah, and we'd be happy to look at your stuff and give you feedback too.
Okay. Oh, thank you.
Of course.
And feel free to ask anything about instructional design. So if you have a question that you've kind of been throwing around in your mind and haven't really had an opportunity, these Q&A portions are about the topic at hand, but also we're here. This is a great opportunity to ask any questions about ID, getting into it, steps to take, maybe some of the challenges that you've come across or things that you've noticed that you're like, is this a good idea? You know, we're here for that.
For sure.
I've got a question. Can you hear me?
Sure.
Okay, good. I wasn't sure. So I've been now, of course, I always give a introduction and a note when I make a request, but a lot of times I'm getting these other ones where nobody's saying anything. They're just trying to add me or whatever. And there's the obvious ones, like you said, some guy that only has women on his LinkedIn or something, you know.
Sure.
But I guess there's some people that are not in my field or anywhere near my field, and they're wanting to add me, and I feel rude, but also I really don't feel comfortable.
Sure.
Just because I don't want to clutter up my feeds and everything.
Yeah, no,
Any comments about that?
I don't blame you. I do that a lot too. I'm pretty loose in like the people that I allow to connect with me, but I mean, you can really be as choosy as you want. So if they're not in your field, one of the things is like, for some reason, like when I changed jobs, it was like field day for all these financial consultants to add me on LinkedIn and ask me if I needed help rolling over my retirement, right? It was kind of like a cold call, way to get in there and try to sell me some business. And so I just started ignoring those. They're not in the field, it's up to you, right? It's kind of up to you. So I think that in that case, you can kind of be as choosy as you want.
And Erin brought up a good point too. It used to be that the LinkedIn algorithm, the more connections you had, the more visible your posts were. But now how LinkedIn really looks at it is the type of content that you have. And so let's say you post something at 8 in the morning. There's actually times of the day where you should be posting because it reaches more eyes. I think it's like 8:15 and like 12 and you can find the times online.
Mhm.
But your visibility now comes from when you post, and then within a few hours of your post, how many people react to that and how many people comment on that. So a way to up that engagement, you want to definitely use hashtags for different things. You want to tag people in your posts or in the comments of your posts. You want to maybe reach out to your connections and ask them to reshare your posts, for ones that you want to be highly visible. If you think that it would be something that is really contributing to the community and that would look good for hiring managers to see that type of content be posted, and it says a lot about you and about the work that you do, that would definitely be one of those that you would want to utilize all of those things to up your game.
Thanks.
Anything else? You guys should ask questions. You have Sarah, Heidi, Tyler.
Erin, I
You
have a really good
professional
question.
instructional designers here.
I have a really good question that I wasn't able to answer for someone today. Their question was, how do I write bullet points on my LinkedIn profile when I revise my resume every time I apply to a different job?
Yeah,
I would say, so you, like we said in the resume webinar, you should always have your base resume. And this has all of the bullet points for all of your positions. You wouldn't reorder your LinkedIn bullet points every time that you revamped your resume for a specific job posting. In fact, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and your portfolio, even though those all might have your work experience on them, they should vary a little bit. Give a little bit more on your LinkedIn. Your resume should really be reserved just for the most applicable items. Whereas your LinkedIn, this is a chance for you to show how you're well-rounded. Same thing with your portfolio. Your portfolio, this is where you show your interests and what really motivates you and drives you. And that way, think of it kind of like a puzzle, right? These are all pieces of the puzzle that fit together to paint the whole picture of who you are, or at least what we can capture in a document, right? So I think it's really important not to get so hung up that all of your documents match exactly, as long as all of your documents are honest. That's the main key. They should never contradict one another, but that doesn't mean they have to be cookie cutter of one another.
Oh my, that's my
This
computer.
is my first time attending. I thought this was great. I wanted to know, do you do this every week?
So right now we have our 8 webinar series going on from from teacher to ID, and our previous sessions from this series are on YouTube, or they're up and coming on YouTube. I'm behind a few episodes, don't judge. But this, I think we have 2 more weeks of this. We have our applying for instructional design positions, and then how to interview for instructional design positions. And then this 8 webinar series is over. But we have more up and coming. Heidi will be doing a mini series on interviewing more specifically. I will be doing some little mini series here and there on different tools of the trade. So how to do the basics in Camtasia, how to do some cool tricks in Articulate, so that's up and coming as well. And then we also do the bi-weekly office hours. So that is where it's an open group session every Sunday from 12:30, or every other Sunday from 12:30 to 1:30, and you can sign up for those sessions on our website.
Thank you. I just wanted to let everyone know that I am a certified teacher, and I did teach early on in my career, but then I moved into working for higher education publishing. So some of you may know Pearson.
Oh,
Yeah, we love
I've been
Pearson.
there for a really long time, and I loved it. And then Pearson did some layoffs, so I was let go. And then I moved into KPMG, where I was the last 4 years. But due to COVID, I got let go in October. So I've kind of looking to make a transition into a different field, and this one is something that I'm interested in. So that's why I joined.
Well, we're happy to have you. We're always
Yeah.
happy to
No,
have
I didn't want anyone to
everybody.
feel comfortable that I haven't taught in a while.
Oh, don't worry about that. We really take anyone. It's geared towards teachers who are looking to switch out, but we're happy to help whoever. We're just kind of the mindset that, you know, education is growth. That's how we move forward as a community and as a society, and we want to perpetuate that and put that out into the universe, and have those people who we help put that out into the universe, and then education becomes something that's accessible as it should be.
Thank you. Great. Well, I'm happy to be part of this group.
Yay.
welcome.
There's a question. I had no idea recruiters were looking at our posts. So should we be sharing some of our work on there, or challenges that we are a part of? Absolutely. Yes. If you finish something and you want some feedback on it, or if you want eyeballs, like, definitely put it out there. I think it speaks volumes when someone is brave enough to put their work out there to receive feedback, and then how you respond to that feedback says a lot about your ability to accept constructive criticism, your ability to adapt on the job, your ability to collaborate. And so always think of your LinkedIn profile as your professional presence, and present yourself in the same manner that you would present yourself at a job or for an interview. Because if I were a hiring manager, I would definitely look through the LinkedIn posts, and I would see, are they contributing valuable things to the community? Are they participating in group discussions and feedback? Are they doing things that are undesirable that might paint my company in a bad light? All of these things are items that hiring managers are moving more into looking at, because it's like checking out, how principals will check out your Facebook to make sure it's all kosher, right? But here it's an opportunity to let that shine, how you would be a valuable asset. Absolutely.
For sure. And I can say that I'm actually hiring for a position on my team right now here in Cleveland. And one of the candidates is connected with me on LinkedIn. And I just happened to catch while I was on LinkedIn that she had commented on someone else's post about how she had had one of her first phone interviews for an ID job, and she was super nervous, but she thought it went really well, and she was really excited about it. And, just seeing that as a hiring manager, like, bumped her up in the rankings for me, because it showed me how excited she is about the possible position, right? So to Sarah's point, like that's real life, right? And that's 100% how it is with, you know, with the good hiring managers anyway.
Heidi.
I think that also speaks to, you know, when you're applying for a job and when you're looking for a job, this is a two-way street. This is not something that you are put in front of, you know, a firing squad and expected to just perform for them. This is your opportunity to look through the hiring manager's LinkedIn. What kind of company is this? What do they value? What do they bring to the table? Does it align with what you bring to the table? This is something I say all the time. Not every shoe is going to fit, and that's important because that's what makes the world go round. If everybody fit into every single job, like, we would never have the colorful, beautiful place that we live in, right? So really kind of think about this as your opportunity too, to really understand how corporations work, how relationships between coworkers happen on LinkedIn, you know, the back and forth through that, how to communicate effectively within the field, how to share, how to get your name out there. You know, it's okay to decide for yourself, yes, I want a company with these attributes, but if they do these things, maybe I'm going to look elsewhere. That is 100% okay. It's good for you to be choosy. A job hunt is totally like dating, like 100%. You wouldn't just date Joe Schmo because he's a man or a woman or whatever you're into, right? Hopefully. Don't do that. You're allowed to be choosy.
Or because he read through your LinkedIn recommendations.
Yeah, or because he said hi to you or she said hi to you. You know, you can be more choosy than that. It is completely okay. So
yeah, no, that's a really good point too, is that never forget and never be so desperate to get out of your current position that you forget that the job interview is for you too. And that's something that a lot of people lose sight of, is that they're trying to, you know, again, it's like dating where you're like, oh, so this guy is really cool, but he likes basketball. So I'm going to pretend I like basketball. How long are you going to pretend you like basketball? Right? Like, how long before you break? Right? If you hate basketball, you know, the same thing goes with job interviews, right? It is as much about you finding a good fit for your life and your values and what you want out of a position as it is the person who's hiring.